pledge allegiance now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Counselor, I know blank Jones. Here. Geisler.
Here.
Shelley.
Here.
LeBlanc.
Here.
And Mayor Boucher.
Here. Are there any announcements that counselors would like to make at this time? Nothing. I'd like to congratulate the Hermantown Talons robotic team on going to the national competition in Houston starting Wednesday of this week. It's a pretty big deal for them. There's still some fundraising going on if anybody wants to help them out. It's a GoFundMe page. They were trying to raise 15,000 and I don't know where they're at right now, but help if you can. Today we have a public hearing on the road improvement district number 541 Hermantown Road and Old Midway Road. Mr. Mulder.
And Joe, we're gonna walk through kind of the presentation that we provided to the residents at a public information meeting. But we'll walk through that quickly. I mean, most people have seen this, but we'll walk through this quickly. It just kind of explains the road improvement program in general, and then specifically how it impacts Hermantown Road and Old Midway Road in the 2024.
Thanks, councilors. We'll get it presented on April 6th to members of the public. We had 40 plus members here and online as we walk through, and folks who have experienced some of the road improvement project presentations in the past. This one isn't very different, but obviously when I get into the specifics of Hermantown Road and Old Midway Road, that's where it kind of dives into it. And as always, we start out with the history of the road improvement plan. I'll let David talk roads in a second, but on the financial side of things, one of the big starting points for this was obviously the city's council's approval of the financial management plan, the FMP, in March of 2019 that allowed us to kind of target and collect funds that make significant improvements like this possible in a way they weren't before in Hermantown. And as always, 4 straight years, and I would expect a 5th, where roads have been the #1 issue to our residents. David?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a slide from our presentation to the public information meeting. Again, this is a slide of our road inventory. In 2015, we inventoried all sections of road in Hermantown and we ranked them from 1 to 5, 1 being a new condition road and 5 being a road that needs to be completely reconstructed. And on the right side of your screen are the different segments of roads. We have 45 gravel sections, the rural bituminous sections, which are shoulders and ditch roads. The 20 urban sections are the ones that have curb gutter and some sidewalk. And then our municipal state aid roads are the ones that we receive state aid on. So then once we did our inventory, we had to apply what we call improvement strategies. And the improvement strategies we focused on for the road improvement plan were roads that were ranked 3 through 5. And the different improvement strategies are a mill and overlay would be a road that was ranked at like a 2 or a 3, and a reclaim and overlay, a 3 or a 4, and then a full reconstruction was roads that were ranked 5. So this project before you is a combination of the reclaim and overlay and the full reconstruction improvement strategy. This slide just shows our 2 roadway standards that we have for the city. The first one on the left is a rural section, and that is 24 feet of pavement, 2-foot shoulders on both sides, and we have ditches. And then the second one on the right is where it's 24 feet of pavement and then 2-foot curb and gutter and sidewalk typically on one side. Both of these work within the 66 feet of right of way that we typically have along these corridors.
So when we pivot back to the funding pieces, and it actually even speaks to a little bit, David and I were talking about the public information meeting, that these prices at the bottom of these are from 2019 when we first started this, and are out of date. So we'll bring those up to date, which will speak to some of the changes in cost that come up. But so how do we pay for these types of projects? That's where the financial management plan comes in, something that kind of coordinate our existing debt, our future debt, our capital improvement plans, kind of things that we're accomplishing across citywide, but then fits in some considerable improvements to road or considerable improvements to projects that we're working across the city. That allows us to kind of map out not only what we're doing in 23 and 24 and beyond. So for example, Hermantown Road and the project we're talking about now is slated for 2024. The payment options, there's obviously some clarity on where money can and can't go that folks are interested in when we talk about these types of projects. So these road improvement projects can lean heavily into road assessments to the individual property owners affected by this, and the general tax levy, because we all benefit from the better roads. MSA allocations are for those roads that David talked about that are MSA certified. We talk about local government aid, and we have some hopefully good news that Representatives Lesnikar and Senator Housechild will be able to make that a possibility in Hermantown, but that dollar amount is still zero at this time. And then there's specific utility funds that those uses can go to water, stormwater utility to this, which you'll see David has outlined in the costs. But sales tax can't be used for these types of projects. Those are very specific uses that that goes for. As in our past years in the road improvement project, we feel like a assessment is appropriate and necessary to make these projects happen. We've been able to hold that number at $9,750 for the property owners. There's two ways those can get paid. Obviously, there's some folks who take care of that all at front when the project is completed. And for folks who want to choose to spread those payments out, they can roll it onto their property taxes for 15 years at 5.5%. So that's an annual payment as part of your property taxes at $971.35. But everybody who has been through the road improvement process over the last 4 years since 2020 has received the $9,750 assessment. And you can kind of see that as we come into 2024 projects that we're talking about here in 23, we do have a bit of a history now of doing these types of projects. Although it seems like a short time ago, it was a full pandemic ago that David and I were bouncing up around Johnson, Portland, Carlson roads for an entire summer in our first round in 2020. And you can kind of see how it's laid out the last few years. And we'll embrace the Ugstad project, which will be pretty extensive this upcoming summer. And as always, we walk the public through the expected calendar of events and schedule for this particular 2024 project. April 6th was the first public information meeting. Tonight, we're at our first public hearing. And next up will be when David has the plans at roughly 30%, we'll bring everybody back in and this summer and be able to speak to real specific changes located to different property owners' properties and their kind of interactions with the road as it changes. So now David can dive into the specificity of this particular project.
Yeah. So again, this map here before you is just outlines the project segments. We have two segments, one Hermantown Road from Highway 2 to Ugstad Road, and then the second section is Old Midway from Midway to Midway. And this slide here is a combination of, on the left-hand side, you can see kind of a breakdown of construction costs. And then on the right-hand side, you have the construction costs at about 3.4 million. And then all the soft costs bring the total cost to about $4.4 million. And this next slide takes on the bottom there, it takes that $4.4 million of costs and shows how we're planning to fund this project. So part of it is stormwater utility fund, about $1 million in assessments, and the bulk of it through the general levy. And again, here, these are the two different sections of road that we're proposing. The top section is the section for the reclaim and overlay, where where we will put some new class 5, grade the existing bituminous, and then put new bituminous down, and then also do some ditching. And then the bottom section is where the full reconstruction, where we have 2 foot of subcut, and we're building a brand new road base and having the 4 inches of bituminous on there as well. Okay. I guess with that, if there's any, questions that the council has, we'd be, free to answer any of those.
Any questions? Anything we need to get to from your end, John?
No, just now you would open it up to
Okay.
the public.
This part of the public hearing, we're going to open it up for public comment. If anyone wishes to comment, either in person or online, we'd ask that you start with your name and address if you're online. And if you're in chambers and want to speak, please step forward to the podium and get a hold of the microphone there and give us your name and address. Okay.
Somebody's got to be first. Dennis Lowfall, 5464 Hermantown Road. Respectfully, the first comment is it's about time. The road's been terrible for a long time. I'm for the project. It's needed it forever, especially since it's the Hermantown Road. It actually is the namesake of the city. It's kind of been embarrassing. A couple of concerns just to be added in with the project, or to make sure occur with the project, I guess. One is a number of us on the road do have concerns about once it gets fixed. It's a narrow road, but it's a straight artery right through town. And people who are now taking Morse Thomas, Maple Grove are going to take Hermantown. And being that it'll be a narrow road compared to those other 2 roads, they're going to go the same speed. It could create some dangerous conditions. So I want to make sure that built into that plan is how to figure out how to slow people down a little bit. That can happen. A little concerned about, there is a lot of bicycle and pedestrian traffic on it too, and how are we going to keep those people safe? Not as many small children as there used to be, but I got a feeling that's going to change here in the near future too. So another point is drainage. The ditches right now do not drain well. Some of them do, some don't. There's a lot of creeks, ditches, etc., that come across the road. I'm hoping that they make sure that those ditches actually drain towards those points, so that we can reduce some of the water logs coming through there. And the culverts. Seems like most of the roads that Hermantown tends to build, if there's a culvert or a water line or something like that goes underneath the road, it's become, within 2 years, it's become a terrible speed bump. Natural speed bump. Now it will slow people down. It'll also take off mufflers. Maybe it's planned into it that way. I don't believe there's any plans right now for water or sewer going through there. There are some people on the road who would like it. There's some who wouldn't necessarily, but if they're planning, if there is any plans to put it through, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put the road in first, but I guess the road needs to be fixed. And then the Midway River Bridge. It is the Midway River Bridge. It's not the Rocky Run Bridge like the map says. It is the Midway River. That's kind of a landmark around there. I know people who fish through it and people who go there just to sit by the bridge, hoping it stays a nice bridge instead of culverts. Something that, I mean, it's a great flowage through there with all the rocks. It's great for kids to play. They go from one side to the other. Trout like it in there. So I really would like to see that bridge stay a bridge instead of a culvert. I think that's most of what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lofald. I'll ask our city engineer to address some of your points. Speed. We have a speed limit of 30 west of Midway Road on Hermantown Road right now.
Good question, Mayor.
And then we do. And then I remember someone being hit and they're in an accident out there, but, and then the width of the roadway, is that going to stay the same?
Our survey will determine that, but
Okay.
we have a standard and that the road is going to look and feel very similar to Levesque Junction. It's a 24 feet of blacktop and 2-foot shoulders. So anybody that lives out on Hermantown Road, if you drive Levesque Junction, that's the feel of the road.
And on your drainage and ditches, or it would be similar to Levesque Junction?
So we heard both at the public information meeting and between meetings here this evening about different areas of drainage concerns. So once we have our survey and we dive into it, that's one of the big things that we do is we'll look at the centerline culverts, we'll look at the area that drains to these centerline culverts and size these culverts accordingly. And as far as culverts heave because of frost, and one of the ways we minimize that is we call it a culvert treatment, where we put sand at a taper leading into and out of that culvert. So instead of having a hard dip, you have more of a soft, it doesn't move like this, it moves more on a gradual plane than on a vertical plane.
And the bridge question is a separate construction project.
So it's a different project, but I can answer that as well. So we hired LHB to design us a new bridge, and we went through the preliminary process. We looked at both box culverts and a bridge, and because of the rock and because of elevations, we've decided it's going to be a bridge. So it'll have, instead of having 2 spans that there are today, there'll be 1 span. So we'll have 2 abutments and then 1 span. And it likely will be about 1 foot to 2 foot higher than it is today.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Would you please step forward and state your name and address?
My name is Susan Anderson. I'm at 3959 Old Midway Road, and I share similar concerns to Mr. Lofald. I'm not completely for having our road paved, but I'm not totally against it either. Our road is basically an alley to our homes, used only by the people who live there, and as a service road for our mail carrier and delivery services. I could deal with our road as is with some patching. However, it seems that a good number of our culverts across the road and at our driveways are a problem. With the current flooding, this has become very obvious. The most recent repairs made to our road were at the culverts crossing the road after the flood of 2012. These areas are currently the biggest problems on our road. They started collapsing right away after the repairs. Whatever is done to improve our road now must absolutely be better than what was done in 2012, or don't bother doing it, it would be a waste of time. If this goes forward, I ask that you keep the project as simple as possible while still providing good, quality, long-lasting work. Also, as with all new roads, I'm concerned with speeding vehicles. We now have many young children on our road. In our road's current condition, we have built-in speed bumps, which have kept the traffic slower. If a new road goes in, we will all need to be more vigilant An extra police patrol would be appreciated. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Susan. Is there anyone else? Please step forward and state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Alan Van Loon. I live at 5426 Hermantown Road. I have one request and one question. At least one person here knows that I'm an IT person for a living, for a job, and I live in what would be called an internet desert. There is no cable, there's nothing there. So if you could consider working with the cable companies to perhaps get cable down the road, you would be my heroes for years to come. The second one is just a question. The notice states that the assessment will be per parcel. And I would just like clarification on if I have a section that's on Hermantown Road and a separate parcel tax-wise behind it, is that two separate parcels? And then I actually own another parcel farther down the road that fronts onto Uggstead Road, but is the same distance back from Hermantown Road as it is from Uggstead Road. Would that be considered getting a benefit for that? How is that going to be charged? Am I going to be charged one assessment, two assessment, three assessments?
I think as far as determining the number of assessments per parcel, we have to sit down at a table during some business time and look at each individual case, because everyone is different and it would be hard to dissect and give you an answer to that right now. Mr. Mulder may have an answer on the internet portion.
Yeah, so I get to be your hero tonight. Whether you like the answer or not. Mediacom has received a grant from the state of Minnesota. They are planning on running fiber up and down Hermantown Road. I think that'll happen this year or next. Their project brings fiber to the home. So it'll run fiber in front of your house. And then if you become a subscriber to Mediacom, which has its goods and bads, they'll run fiber to the house. And then once it's in the house, it goes to coax.
I'm assuming there will be a per foot charge.
There is not.
There's not.
They are doing that with a state, with their own money and with state grant.
You are my hero tonight.
You will, I mean, it'll be a service that you'll have to subscribe to. But yes, there is plans for that.
All right. I'll listen for more information then on the billing portion. Thank you.
There may be a press release on the internet portion in the next month or two. Any other questions or comments from anyone in chambers or online? If so, please state your name and address. Is there any more comments for the public hearing on the Hermantown Road reconstruction? This will be the last opportunity for public comment. If so, please state your name and address. And we will close the public comment period and move on to the resolution 2023-43, resolution ordering improvement and directing preparation of final plans and specifications for 2024 Road Improvement District number 541, Hermantown Road and Old Midway Road. Do we have a council motion in relation to this?
Motion to proceed with that resolution, just as you read it.
Thank you. Motion by Councillor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor LeBlanc. Now we don't need any more explanation from our city administrator, but do any of the councilors have comments at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question. Mrs. Anderson asked about the quality of the road, and I know it was discussed, but David, maybe you could just reiterate that it's not a patch, but we're building a road for a 50-year road or what have you.
Yeah. So I think the question that I'm hearing is they don't want, we want some kind of assurance that we're building a quality road and something that's not going to fall apart. And that was one of the questions that was brought up at the public information meeting. And my response to that is we're designing this to meet our rural standard for a roadway. And so we're designing to that, and then we'll hire a contractor to do the work, and then we will inspect that to ensure that the road gets built according to our specifications. And a reminder, this is a road improvement. It's not a correction or a cure-all. That we don't have control over, the spring runoff or the frost. So we're improving what's there today. And the life expectancy for these types of roads is about 25 years.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? You have a roll call, please?
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Jelly,
Aye.
LeBlanc,
Aye.
Jones, Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next, we'll move to communications. Mr. Mulder, you have one communication highlighted here.
Yeah, this is in fact from the MediaCom Director of Governmental Director. We're talking about the expansion of broadband services in the southwest part of the city, which includes Hermantown Road. If you want, I can provide a map of that for you.
Thank you. No presentations at this time. Public discussion on items not on the agenda. There will be a time for public discussion on our items that we vote on later under each item. Does anybody have any items of general public discussion for the council at this time? Is there any general public discussion for the council? We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes per person. And last opportunity for public discussion. If you wish to discuss anything, please state your name and address. We'll close the general public discussion and move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval or correction of the April 3rd, 2023 City Council minutes and accounts payable from April 1st to April 15th in the amount of $437,305.90. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
LeBlanc,
Aye.
Jones, Geisler,
Aye.
and Mayor Boucher.
Aye. We have no ordinances this evening, resolutions. Resolution 2023-44, resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver an agreement for engineering services with a total not to exceed contract amount of $339,140 for 2024 road improvement district number 541, Hermantown Road and Old Midway Road with Northland Consulting Engineers. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Do we need any more explanation on this, Mr. Mulder?
Well, you ordered the project. Now we got to design. So,
And given council discussion, I think Counselor Geisler has something he's going to say.
I do. I actually have two things to say on this one. As we discussed in the pre-agenda, the amount of $339,140. It's quite a bit less than the engineer's original estimate, and I think it's a good value for what we're getting. We had some discussions last meeting about whether to hire an outside consultant or not. So I think this is good demonstration that we made the right decision. And then lastly, my son works for Northland Consulting Engineers, and that the result of this contract has no financial benefit to either he or I.
Thank you. Are there any other counselors with comments? I'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on this resolution? Is there any public comment on resolution 2023-44? If anyone wishes to comment on this resolution, please state your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Geisler.
Aye.
Jelly.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-45, resolution approving authorization for professional services for geotechnical evaluation services by EPC Engineering and Testing. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Counselor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
So this, we have a master service agreement with EPC and with Braun. And as we go to each project, we ask them for quotes on the specific project. EPC's quote was lower than Braun's, and this would be to conduct soil borings along Hermantown Road so that we can have a better understanding of exactly what kind of road, what kind of conditions the road bed is in. So what kind of corrections we may need to make as we look at the design of that work.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
Should there be a price associated to this, or is it?
It is in the packet. It's
Okay.
27,750, I believe.
Just, I mean, just normally we see the price as part of the resolution, so just curious.
And your
And-
saving on the preliminary estimate was 30,000.
Yes,
There's another 2,000 you're saving.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment on this resolution? Is there any public comment on resolution 2023-45? There is any public comment on this resolution, please start with your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones. Aye. Geisler.
Aye.
Jelly.
Aye.
LeBlanc.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-46. Resolution creating a prioritized bridge replacement list for the city of Hermantown. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Mulder?
So we're asking the city council to prioritize the bridge over whether it's the Midway River or the Rocky Run.
The one on the Hermantown Road.
One on the Hermantown Road. To prioritize this as an important project for us and that we have plans to move forward. By doing this, that our hope is that that would give us the prospect of getting state bridge bonding money from the state to pay for a portion of that cost.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
How many bridges are on this list?
This is the only one on our list. The city.
It's the priority bridge.
Well, I was just trying to think of another bridge in the city of Hermantown, because we're
Yeah,
moving
so
one.
Years ago, I had.
Lindall Road.
Yeah.
The city engineer gave me the definition of bridge, and to be honest, I don't remember what it was. The other one that we do have, so I can tell you the couple of them that we do have. The other one is on Sunby Road. That was a bridge. I don't know if it now may be a culvert. But we have 3 or 4 bridges around.
Okay.
We're taking one out on Lindall Road.
Yeah.
There's another one that we have. I think the culvert on Okerstrom, right as you get into the park, that culvert might be labeled a bridge as well because of its size.
Mr. Mayor, I just was pleased to hear that it is going to be a bridge and not a box culvert. I think that will serve it well, and the fact that it's getting raised up a couple of feet, I think that's good too.
Yeah, and I would just like to add the quick definition of the bridge by MnDOT standards is when a pipe, whether it's a pipe, a culvert or a bridge, if it spans 10 feet where it crosses the center line of the road. So a box culvert that's 10 feet wide is considered a bridge. I believe we have 6 bridges in the city. We're taking one offline. We have 5. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? If so, state your name and address. Any public input on resolution 2023-46? Last opportunity for public input on this resolution. Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Jelly,
Aye.
LeBlanc,
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-47, resolution receiving bids and awarding contract for road improvement district number 538, Richard Avenue, Lindgren Road, Stevie Drive, and a frontage road and Sam's Way in the amount of $2,209,180. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Mulder?
So this project will replace all of the streets, kind of what we call the Hermantown Marketplace in between Lowberg and Haines, south of Maple Grove up to Market Street. We will extend Richard from Maple Grove all the way to Lindgren. We'll replace Lindgren with a urban street. So it'll no longer be gravel, it'll be curb gutter and sidewalk. And then we'll repave and recondition all the other pavement in that. This is slightly over budget, but because we're getting $750,000 in state grant money, we believe that we want to proceed with that this year. We originally had scheduled this for 2022, but because of right-of-way acquisition issues, planning and all of that, we've pushed it off into 23.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, is there any public input on this resolution? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-47? If anyone wishes to speak to the council about this resolution, please state your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly,
Aye.
LeBlanc,
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-48, resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver an agreement for materials testing services for road improvement district number 538, Richard Avenue, Lindgren Road, Stevie Drive, and the A frontage road in Sam's Way. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder?
So earlier you approved a proposal from geotechnical evaluations. You do geotechnical evaluations when you're designing the road. Then when you start building the road, you do material testing. So this, again, we have master service agreement with Braun and EPC for this kind of work. EPC was the low quote. In our purchasing policy, if the quote is less than $25,000, I can sign off on that. But if it's more than $25,000, it comes to the city council. So this was at $25,662. So it's coming to the city council for material testing for this road project.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
So does the company doing the work not test the material as it goes down?
So the question is, the contractor doing the work, are they required to do their own testing? So in the MnDOT world, there's a couple of different terms. One's called quality control and one's called quality assurance. So the quality control is testing that's done by the contractor. An example of that would be their aggregate coming from their pit. They have to make sure that the gradation meets the class 5 specification and the sand specification. Additionally, any product that they're, bituminous or concrete that they supply, they have to provide tests that they're meeting our specification. So on the owner's side, we do the quality assurance. So it's a kind of a checks and balances that we do independent tests once the material is delivered to the site, that in-place material meets it's called the material control of schedule or material testing control. And so that's what EPC does on our behalf, is make sure that the contractor's testing is correct and accurate.
The short answer, in the words of Ronald Reagan, trust but verify.
It just seems like it's an additional cost that, I mean, I get it's out of our control, but I feel like the contractor should be held to a high standard. We shouldn't have to pay to verify that they're being held to that standard.
And in this particular, there's a certain amount of truth to that, but in this particular case, because we're receiving money from the state, they do require this, and actually a higher level of testing than we would under a local road improvement.
It's standard building,
No,
it's building or
Yeah.
roads or driveways. Standard practice.
I understand that, but we don't inspect the lumber that goes into the homes, do we, on the job site?
We inspect the construction.
You inspect it, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not what we're
Yes,
doing.
They're all not only checking gradation, but they're checking the compaction as well,
Yeah.
correct?
I don't know. I kind of think it's a good idea that it's not just the contractor saying my stuff's okay.
Because we have that.
We've had it, yes. Any other questions or comments from council? Any public input on this resolution? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to resolution 2023-48? If anyone wishes to speak to this resolution, please state your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Geisler,
Aye.
Jelly,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-49, resolution requesting advanced funding for the city of Hermantown from municipal state aid funds for SAP 202-101-014 and SAP 202-104-012 in the amount of $1,480,000. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jones. Mr. Mulder?
So this is simply having the city council request from the state of Minnesota to advance money that we would normally get under municipal state aid to fund this project, the Uggstead Road project. That money will then we'll use the federal money to pay that back when we receive the federal money when the federal fiscal year starts in October.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
I just wanted to ask if we've looked at how this is going to affect our plans, in the coming years, but it sounds like we're going to be able to pay the money back.
Yeah,
And the funds will be available as we need them.
yeah, and we have a schedule of how we're going to use municipal state aid throughout the year. So the nice part about this is in 2024, because we're doing Hermantown Road, we won't be using any state aid roads. So state aid, so we'll have basically to take a year off, and so that we come up with the project later on.
And I'd just like to add to that, council, that it's a common practice between the counties and municipalities in the state of Minnesota. It's an opportunity to fund your project on somebody else's dollar for 0%, financing. So as long as you stay within your means, it's a good avenue to advance construct these projects.
I just didn't want to see us use, our $500,000 for 24 and 25 and then go to use the project in 25 and use our money for 26 and 27. And
Yeah.
Seems like a slippery slope, but as long as we have a plan and it works in it, that's good.
And
If you look on page 92 of your budget booklet, it'll list out the plan. 24, we're going to use some for crack seal on Arrowhead. 2025, we've got some scheduled for Lindahl Road. 2026, Stebner Mill and Overlay, but nothing scheduled for 27 right now.
And I'd like to comment that through my time on council, there's been times where the 1 year amount is just not enough to do a project. And we're lucky that we can ask for early payment of a little bit of money ahead. If you're going to build a mile of road and it's 1.5 billion, there's 3 years worth. You bundle it all together and try and get it done. Any other comments from council? Is there any public input on this resolution? Any public input on the resolution for the advancement of municipal state aid funding? request. If anyone wishes to speak to the council on this, please state your name and address. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones. Aye. Geisler.
Aye.
Jelly.
Aye.
LeBlanc.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2023-50. Resolution receiving bids and awarding contract for a second water connection to the city of Duluth in the amount of $42,400. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve it.
Motion by Counselor LeBlanc. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Jelly. Mr. Mulder?
So this is putting a pipe connecting to the city of Duluth's water system under Haynes Road so that we can connect to that in the future, but we get that work done prior to St. Louis County redoing Haynes Road.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
Seems like a relatively cheap insurance policy to buy in the event that our one connection goes south, so.
And I like the idea of doing it now before the road's constructed instead of having to wait if something went wrong in the future. Any other comments? Is there any public input on this resolution? We have an opportunity for public input on resolution 2023-50. This will be the last opportunity for public input on resolution 2023-50. Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler.
Aye.
Jelly.
Aye.
LeBlanc.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2023-51, resolution approving a grant agreement between the city of Hermantown and the Twins Community Fund and authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver such grant agreement. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Counselor Geisler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor LeBlanc. Mr. Mulder?
So we applied for, I should say Eric, we'll give Eric the credit for this. Eric applied for a grant to the Minnesota Twins Community Fund for some grant money that we could apply for Victor Park. So we did receive a $10,000 grant. We're going to put that toward improving the dugouts in the new fields so that they kind of match what baseball is expecting.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Is there a time limit associated with this grant? Like, are we gonna get the fields turned and get the dugouts where they're supposed to be before this grant expires?
When I made the application for the original grant, it indicated that this would be a 24 project, and we made the award. So no, we fall within any timeframes that there are.
Any other comments or questions?
Could we ask for it again next year?
Lots of dugouts over there.
There's always opportunity. This is the second time that we've received the same grant. So I'm willing to look for any and all grant opportunities that come up. And I do want to thank Jim Sonneson of our park board. He's the one who originally did come up with this as well. And I just followed it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Is there any public input on resolution 2023-51? We have an opportunity for public comment on this resolution. If so, please state your name and address. Is there any public input or comment on this resolution? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jelly.
Aye.
LeBlanc.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Geisler.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next, we have a motion to close the meeting of the Hermantown City Council pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 Subdivision 3 to consider confidential information under the attorney-client privilege in regard to the city of Hermantown's settlement negotiations of a PRA health insurance claim. Following this closed session, the Hermantown City Council will reconvene in an open session. Do we have a motion to move to closed session?
Motion to move to closed session.
Motion by Counselor Jelly. Do we have a second? Second by Counselor Geisler. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jones. Aye. Geisler.
Aye.
Jelly.
Aye.
LeBlanc.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye, we are now in closed session.